Okay guys, I'm just going to show you how I stack a wedding cake, and by any means, if you have a way that you're more comfortable with, go for it, stay with it, if it works for you. This is just something that works for me, and I'm just going to try to show what I do. Um, First of all, my name is Julie Rosfeld, and I'm the owner of I Dream of Cakes here in West Alexandria, Ohio. And I want to go over a couple of tools that you will be needing, or what I use. First of all, most important, we all know, is a turntable. And this turntable, you can reverse it. I'm not sure. Yeah, there you go. So you can do this other side, but I just prefer to keep it on this side at all times. And I keep this little skid mat on there so that my cake doesn't slide around. Second, you'll notice I'm able to get my fingers underneath the board without having to really prop the board up and get my fingers under, because I use the cardboard boards. And what I do is that I take the regular board, and I'll probably add about 4 boards in here, depending on how heavy the cake is. And then I also add, if you can see this, now bear with me because I am kind of filming this on my own, and my helper doesn't get here till a little bit later, and I really got to get these cakes done. So anywho, I glue on another 4 more boards. So when you do put any dowels or skewers into your cakes, it's really going to have a nice thick base to hold into, okay? Also, another important thing, when you do your cakes, or when I do my cakes, I make sure that the boards I use are doubled, okay? I also make sure that they're with cake foil on both sides, not aluminum foil, not freezer paper, not wax paper, not waxed boards, but I make cake foil for both sides, and I just trim it to fit. The reason for this is if you have raw cake sitting on this cardboard, it acts just like a sponge, and it's just going to suck that moistness right out of your cake, and we don't want that. Also, it can weaken this board, and when you have it sitting there, it may end up getting soggy in one corner, and then look out, because maybe that's going to affect how your cake structure is going to be. Now, I put this on raw cardboard just to show you that example, but for some reason it's only been on here maybe 20 minutes and it still hasn't really absorbed in there. But if I were to move this aside, sorry to get icky on you, but you can certainly see how the shortening is absorbing into the cardboard, and that's just going to make you a weak board. When you do glue 2 boards together at the same time, I'm not sure if the camera can pick this up, but the corrugation lines on this board are running down like this. And when you glue the other board on, you want to make sure that the corrugations go this way. That way it just makes for a more sturdier board for you. Okie dokie. All right. Next, most important tool. I use the quick icer tip. You can get that from Wilton. It's this big puppy right here. I also use the Wilton featherweight bags. I love them. I prefer them over any other kind of bag to use. I also use a bowl scraper, and I get these for free from my vendor. And they're plastic. I prefer a very softer plastic, not very hard where you can't bend it, because if you can see, when I put my hand on here, I put it just like this, like I'm holding a deck of cards. Exactly like holding a deck of cards. There's my thumb. There you go. Now, I can keep this straight, Or if I need to trim off a little bit more of icing at the bottom, then I simply bend my finger. If I need it off the top, I simply use that finger. You know, so I can really manipulate this very easily. You don't want a real thin, you know, flimsy one, but you certainly want a nice grade one. I'm not sure if you can pick up on the thickness of that or not, but it's just a bowl scraper, okay? A couple more tools. You're gonna need a sewing gauge. You wanna make sure that it has this little Dumaflacher right on here, okay? And I'll show you why we use that. A nice pair of sharp scissors, something that you only use for, like say, ribbon cutting. This little baby nose thing, so that you're not blowing on your cakes. You just use this to blow on your cakes with to get any crumbs off. Just a little container of powdered sugar. Also, these bamboo skewers, I get these from Myers. Now, what's very important about these, you want to make sure that they're not the kind that are very, like balsa wood, because those can snap and they're not very sturdy. These little bamboo puppies are very, very sturdy. So I'll just show you the package. Hopefully you can see that. All right. I use those a lot. Also, I'll buy these little round dowels from Walmart in the craft section. Sometimes I'll use the Wilton also, because they have a variety of thicknesses on here, and depending on the weight of the cakes that I'm putting on the bottom tier depends on the size that I'm going to use here. Next item you'll need is of course your little spatula, and then some dowels. Big long puppies here. I'll show you those a little bit later too. And we'll get into these too. These are, I just now started to kind of use these. Before I was using the Myers milkshake straws, which I still kind of prefer more than any other kind of straw. It's easier to cut. I can get them whenever I need them. I don't have to worry about shipping them to myself, but I have been kind of using these boba tea straws. You can get them from bobateadirect.com, and they're really fairly large straws, so I've been kind of using those. So if you can get them, that's fine. If you can't, you know, just get the milkshake straws. Try to stay away from the little tiny little drinking straws. Those are okay to use if you have little tiny tiers, you know, because they don't take up much room. The important thing about these, you don't want to use too large of a straw in a small cake, because you risk splitting that cake on the sides, and it takes up a lot of space in there. So the larger the cake, the larger the straw. The smaller the cake, the smaller the straw. Okay, so let's begin. I've obviously already leveled and filled the cakes so that we can move along a little bit quicker. Sorry that my elbow is in the camera. This is just the buttercream that I use, or icing, whatever you want to call it. Make sure it's tight, of course. And I usually use the teeth. One side has teeth, and then one side is straight over here. So I'll use the teeth side down against the cake. And I just start going. Now you want to make sure that your cakes, when you first put them together, you'll know that they're very moist on the side, really kind of moist. And that's wonderful. That's exactly what you want. But before you start icing your cake, you want to kind of let your cakes air dry a little bit. Now you don't want them to dry out per se. You just want to be able to touch them, and then they're a little bit dry so that they're not so damp. Now this is just my preference. You may totally, you know, disagree, but and that's okay, not a problem. The reason for, if you have your cake all moist and damp on the outside, and then you're icing your cake, and then it's humid out or very hot out, that icing is going to bubble off of the side of your cake. okay? It's not going to have something to cling on to. I mean, it's just like if you were to try to climb a pole and somebody was to spray it with water. It's almost kind of how, you know, I explain that. So as you see, I'm just going around, and I start from the bottom. I don't start from the top. Just my preference. And yes, it's kind of chilly in here. I keep it that way towards the fall and winter because it's like walking into a refrigerator for your cakes. Of course, no one else likes it. And I freeze them to death, but it's great. So my icing is a little bit stiff. Now I'm just going right on across the top. Yes, it's a little fast and it's not perfect. You don't have to have it perfect. You just need to make sure that you have enough icing on the cake. I start with a little bit more than I need because it's easier to take off. And this, by all means, doesn't have to look pretty up here because we're going to manipulate it, all right? Handy dandy little dude. And this should be your left hand, okay? You shouldn't have to be doing all this all the time. This is your left hand, okay? You work it. Okay? If you have excess, just wipe it off on your bucket. Yes, I make my own icing, and I put it in buckets. I have to make 3 or 4 buckets a week. They're about 45 to 55 gallon buckets. Okay, simple. Okay, we got it. Yeah, you'll see a couple little things here and there, and we're gonna address that, all right? On the top, how I do it is I'm gonna just start from a corner and come into the middle like an X. That corner, that corner, that corner. Now I'm gonna go down the middle of it. Okay? Now you're just gonna kind of fine tune it. If you see any low spots, manipulate your icing in that area. Okay. All right. Now, there's some dirtiness. I shouldn't say dirtiness, huh? I should say I don't know, but I should say not pretty spots. So you're just gonna go around one more time, like that, okay? And then just bring those edges in. All right? All right, good enough for me. Now, I don't know if you can see me, kind of, yeah, maybe, all right. So, this is another cake. Now, while I'm letting that one sit, I'm just going to work on this one over here. And I know you can't see me, but you can definitely hear me, I believe. And I'm just going to load up this bag. Same thing. Now, as I'm going around, I just use my finger